Hello and welcome to the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast. This is episode number 2. Thank you for being here. If you're a returning listener, I appreciate you being here. If this is your first time, welcome. We're going to be talking about NBA, Europa League, Champions League. So yeah, let's get to it. As far as the NBA, the seedings in the East are set. It's going to be Bucks Magic, Raptors versus Nets, Celtics versus Sixers, Heat versus Pacers. The last matchup is the only one that's kind of entertaining. It's pretty entertaining, actually. The other ones, it should be pretty easy. Bucks should win. Raptors should win. Celtics should win pretty easily. Magic, Nets, Sixers, they're not very good teams. Sixers had potential to maybe go deep, but they lost Simmons, so that kind of cancels all their chances of going deep. Heat versus Pacers. The Heat have a very good roster. Like I said on my previous podcast, they have a lot of shooters to surround Jimmy Butler. Bam Adebayo should be the most improved player, and they have a really good head coach. So, there's a lot that they should be excited for. Pacers have T.J. Warren, Oladipo, Turner. What's his name? Rookie of the Year, Brogdon. Rookie of the Year for like 4 years ago. Brogdon. They have a squad too, but mostly the game should be interesting because of T.J. Warren versus Jimmy Butler. I think back in February, Jimmy Butler was asked about T.J. Warren. He said, T.J. Warren is not on my level. Like, we shouldn't even be talked under the same breath. And at the time, most people were like, yeah, that's right. You're right. Jimmy Butler had a way more proven player. But in the bubble, T.J. Warren has been awesome. He's scored a lot of points. He's led the Pacers to some wins. So they played like 3 days ago, and they finally got to match up again. And Jimmy Butler hadn't been playing. He had been hurt. That's his first game back. And they had a scuffle. They had to be separated. It was a pretty good game. It was a good matchup. Jimmy Butler won this one because he shut him down. I think he held him to like 12 points or 13 points. And T.J. Warren did not score in the second half. So advantage Jimmy Butler. But now they get to play. For minimum 4 games in the playoffs. It should be a good series. I do have the Heat going through. Spoelstra is just a better coach than the Pacers head coach. They have more quality players. I trust Jimmy Butler is a dog. T.J. Warren, he's had some good games, but he's inexperienced. This is like his first time in the limelight. I don't think they're gonna be able to take him off. As far as the West, we're still waiting to see who's gonna get that 8th spot. It could be the Blazers, the Spurs, the Grizzlies, or the Suns. In my previous podcast, I said that the Suns had no chance, or even though they were like 4-0 or 5-0 at the time, I didn't think they would have a chance to make the playoffs, and that was going to be, kind of sad because they had been playing so good. But lo and behold, Devin Booker is putting that team on his back. They're 7-0 as of this recording, and they actually have a chance. They have a chance to, sneak into the ninth spot and get in the play-in. I do hope they do make that because Blazers versus Suns for the play-in would be great. Would be great TV. Devin Booker versus Damian Lillard going at it. Lillard's not young. He's 30 now, but Devin Booker is super young, 23. Two elite guards going at it, carrying their teams. A lot of teams that people thought were like dead in the water when the NBA had to stop because of coronavirus. So yeah, it'll be a great matchup. Regardless of who gets the 8th seed, as a Laker fan, I am not worried on whoever gets the 8th seed. I feel like the Lakers will handle them pretty easily. If it's the Grizzlies, the Suns, or the Spurs, it's gonna be easy 4-0 cakewalk, 4-0 sweep. If it's the Blazers, it'll probably be a gentleman's sweep, a 4-1, 5-game series. Maybe 6, but I don't see the Blazers pushing the Lakers to a 7-game. Or a lot of people even have the Blazers winning the series just outright, which I think is pretty crazy. It's kind of insulting to the Lakers. The Lakers have the number 1 seed for a reason. They were the number 1 seed for almost the whole season in the Western Conference, the tougher division. They're still ranked as one of the best defenses in the whole league. I know their offense has struggled a bit in the bubble, But I also do feel like LeBron has been coasting in the bubble. I mean, basically secured the first spot in the first game when they beat the Clippers. Clippers was like the only like game that really counted, and they handled that. So I feel like they haven't been showing their best arsenal since in the bubble. But I mean, people have I mean legitimate concern for playing the Blazers. I could see why they would be concerned. Lillard's playing out of his mind. Nurkic came back from his horrific leg injury and is playing like really really good basketball. I think he's averaging 18 points in his first 7 games back, which is really good as your third option, fourth option maybe, because Carmelo's there. But I don't see them winning. I don't trust the Blazers defense to be able to stop the Lakers. Lillard is playing like an MVP. He's playing like the best player in the league right now. But I mean, Lillard. We've seen that from Lillard before. This is not the. I mean, he is on a different level. Don't get me wrong, but we've seen that from Lillard before. He's this is not the first. It's not like he's just coming out of nowhere and we're like, damn, this is a whole different Lillard. Like we've seen Lillard scored 50. We know what he could do. He's great on the offensive side, but on the defensive side, there's a lot to be asked for him. Like he's not a great defender. If you get him switched on one of your players, you feel pretty comfortable if he's the one defending you. McCollum, he's a good number two, but he's not an elite number two. Like if you have LeBron and your running mate is AD, Anthony freaking Davis, one of the best players, one of the most skilled big men ever, and then you're Lillard, and you have McCollum as your running mate, like you got to give the edge to the Lakers in the playoffs, especially not in the regular season. In the playoffs, superstars win playoff games. That's one of the main like takeaways from NBA history is you need stars in the playoffs. Stars win you games. Stars win you championships. And the Lakers would have the two best players in that series. And a lot of people are saying who's gonna stop Lillard? Who's gonna stop McCollum? We have no guards. Well, when LeBron wants to defend, he could pick up one of them. I mean, he won't shut down Lillard, but he could give him a hard time. He has 8 inches on him of height. If you put LeBron on Lillard, I'm pretty sure he'll be able to slow him down at least somewhat. And then McCollum could get his points, but you could just throw different types of bodies. Maybe Kuzma's long. He'll be able to give him a little bit of a trouble. And especially now that Kuzma's actually trying, it feels like it bothers him when people score on him, which is good. I feel like there's been some growth this season in Kuzma, so I'm excited to see him in the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, like we could throw LeBron, we could throw Kuzma, even AD. He's not a bad perimeter defender. But I'll turn that question right back around to the Blazers fans or the people that have the Blazers winning. Who's going to guard LeBron? Like the one player that the Blazers had that could have maybe slowed down LeBron was Trevor Ariza. He's kind of old now, but he's still a pretty good perimeter defender. But he didn't come to the bubble. He decided to stay home. Nothing wrong with that. He has a family to take care of. But that's the one defender that the Blazers could have had to slow down LeBron. And now he's not there. So who are they going to throw at him? Carmelo. Carmelo has never been a good defender, and he's 36 years old now. Like you put Melo on LeBron, it's going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be easy. I know teams have tried throwing centers at LeBron at times. I mean, they don't have no fast-footed centers. They have a lot of pretty quality centers, like decent centers. They're not like elite. Nurkic is good offensively. Defensively, he's not that great. That's just facts. I mean, he's kind of good at defending the paint, but if you have him guarding LeBron on the perimeter, he's not fast enough to keep up with him. Same could be said about Whiteside. He's a elite rim defender, but he's horrible out in space just because he's not quick on his feet. That's why the Heat got rid of him, because he's too one-dimensional. Those kind of centers are just not that valuable in the NBA anymore. So, yeah, and then who's going to stop AD? Like, maybe Whiteside, he's a good defender, but, I mean, we saw what AD did to Rudy Gobert. Like, he just demolished him, and Rudy Gobert is a defensive player of the year. He's one of the elite defenders in the paint. So, Whiteside's not Rudy Gobert, and AD handled Rudy Gobert pretty easily. So, I mean, I just don't see the Blazers really giving the Lakers that much of trouble. I could see the one thing I would say is with the other teams, it would be blowouts. It would be a 4-0 sweep. It would be blowouts. But with the Blazers, I could see them, losing in 5, losing in 6, and all 5 or 6 of them being, close games where you're in the last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter and you're like, whoa, they might be able to pull this off. But at the end, they won't be able to just because LeBron and AD are just that good. And the one thing I would say that people haven't been considering is LeBron is a savant at finding mismatches. In that game versus the Clippers, before the weekend, right before the NBA had to shut down, Lou Williams, he's a monster. He could score points. He could get buckets against anybody. But LeBron basically made him useless. He made Doc Rivers had to swap him out just because whoever Lou Williams was guarding, he would have that player come and set a screen for him. So then he sees Lou Williams guarding somebody. He'll tell that person, come set a screen with me. And then he'll rub the defender that's defending LeBron James. And then they'll get the switch. And Lou Williams will be guarding LeBron James. And Lou Williams, for all his offensive prowess, he leaves a lot to be desired on defense too. So he'll just pick him apart like that. He'll back down Lou Williams. The help would come, kick it out, extra pass. And then it's a wide open three. LeBron knows how to manipulate defenses like nobody else. So, and the Blazers just don't have defenders, and LeBron is still elite on offense. I don't know. I know he's maybe on the downside. He's not what he used to be, but he's still elite. Like you guys are gonna see how good he still is once these playoffs starts. AD's a monster. The Lakers have the two best players in the series, and stars win you playoff series. Therefore, the Lakers are going to win in 5. In 6. I'll say 6. Lakers in 6, but they're not going 7. And I don't get the hysteria or like the panicking that a lot of people seem to be having right now with the Blazers. They're having a nice little run to make the playoffs. It's fun to see. Congratulations to Lillard for, showing up, for shutting up his doubters and letting the NBA know how good of a player he is. Shout out for Carmelo too, for getting a role back in the NBA, for not retiring, for persevering, for sitting almost a year out and coming back and being a contributor to a quality team. Shout out to Nurkic for coming back from a horrific leg injury and still being a really, really solid player. And good for the Blazers. They get to make the playoffs again, probably. I do have them making the playoffs, so shout out to them. But six games tops. 6 games tops. And that's it. I don't see them. I don't see all these people that call them. They're saying that they might be the best 8 seed ever. I don't see that. 6 games tops. But I do have to say, I have to give Lillard credit for never backing down. One of the things I love about the NBA is just we get to see a lot of the elite players actually go against each other, which is awesome. Like seeing Lillard go up against Paul George and Beverly. Beverly didn't really play him, so he didn't get to go against him. But just seeing matchups, it brought me flashbacks to last season when Damian Lillard sent Paul George and Westbrook home when he hit that game winner against OKC. That's one of that still image of Paul George reaching over to block Damian Lillard's shot, and he couldn't. And like just having 2 stars going up against each other, defending each other I think that's one of the things that I like so much about the NBA. Just because like in other sports like soccer or football, you don't really see that. I mean, there's like the stars in football is mostly their quarterbacks. Mahomes, Jackson, Breeze, Rodgers, those are all their what the NFL markets. When they have playoff matchups, everyone's excited. Russell Wilson versus Rodgers and just stuff like that. But they never really get to go against each other. You see, in the NBA, you'll see the two stars, defending each other. The game comes down to the last minute, and you have them guarding each other. In the NFL, the NFL is dope. I love the NFL, but like growing up, I always saw Manning versus Brady. One of the best matches ever. 2 of the best quarterbacks. But at the end of the day, it would just be Brady against the Colts defense and Manning against Brady's defense. And those are it's fun to watch, but you never see the two stars going at it. Like in the NFL, you would see like a great pass rusher going against a left tackle or a right tackle. I mean, that's not something that you turn on the TV to watch. Sometimes the camera angle doesn't even get them like going at it. You don't really see, oh man, like that left tackle really held his own this snap, Or I mean, you have the wide receiver and the cornerback, but like I said, even the TV angle doesn't really capture that as well as they could, or they just have to keep the camera on the football. So for the most part, it's just watching the quarterback. Wide receiver cornerback matchups are pretty fun. Like running back and maybe a middle linebacker, or quarterback and a safety having to like read each other's like cues and stuff like that. It gets kind of like, you do have some matchups that are pretty interesting, but for the most part, you never see the stars really match up against other stars, and like the outcome of the game determines like how these stars perform against each other. It's more of a team aspect, which is nice. It's good. I love the NFL, but I just love the singularity of the NBA, of how you can have stars go at it like one-on-one. Paul George against Damian Lillard. Whenever you see Damian Lillard go up against Russell Westbrook, that's must-watch TV, because they both are dogs. They both want to win. You see Westbrook, he gets points against like some other stars, and he starts rocking the baby. The NBA is just it's a great league to watch. It's super entertaining. There's like drama. NBA players are very intertwined with the pop culture. You always see there's like the all Kardashian team and stuff like that. It's just, the NBA just has so much quality content that you could consume. If you don't watch the NBA, I recommend you to pick it up. It's very entertaining, especially if you follow like the storylines. The NBA is one of the best at keeping storylines throughout the season and just following player movement. Another thing that I like about the NBA is like players nowadays have a lot of say where they could go. Mostly thanks to LeBron, he started the movement on empowering players to move to teams where they feel like their career could go in a better trajectory. So he kind of started that when he went to Miami, and then after that, a lot of players that followed, which I think is good for the NBA. I didn't like what KD did, but I mean, I don't feel like a lot of players would do what KD did. I feel like that's maybe one in a million. Most people know that you got to keep a competitive balance, and you go to a team like Kawhi. Kawhi signed with the Clippers. He could have signed with the Lakers. That would have been crazy. Like Lakers would have obviously been the favorites, even more the favorites. They would have had like, it would have been crazy. It would have been another like Warriors situation basically. So as much as I want the Lakers to win a championship, I'm kind of glad Kawhi didn't come to us, just because it would kind of ruin the parity of the NBA. But yeah, the NBA is elite. I love the NBA. It's one of my favorite sports to watch. It's definitely top 3 of the sports. Growing up, soccer was my favorite sport. It was the sport I played. It was the sport I followed the most. And then I picked up football because one of my teachers, she was a diehard Seattle Seahawks fan, and she would always just bring them up and talk about them. And I'll be like, man, what is this lady talking about? And then I started, I was like, man, I might have to check out some football. And then I just started watching the NFL. I'm like, oh, okay, this is dope. I love the NFL. And ever since elementary school, I was like, all right, the NFL is dope. And then almost the same thing with basketball. I kept hearing people talk about the basketball, and people always said, oh man, the NBA is so dope. So I decided to take a look. Sure enough, NBA is so dope, and I just love the NBA now. So if you were to ask me what my favorite sport is, I would have a very difficult time answering that question. For a while, I mean, it was clearly soccer, and then football was making a push to beat soccer, and basketball was my third favorite sport. But I feel like maybe now, if you ask me, I still got to give soccer the nod. I love watching a good soccer game. Champions League, the World Cup. The World Cup is amazing. Nothing can compare like the World Cup. But yeah, basketball is number 2 now, and the NFL would have to be third. And then after that, I'll watch some tennis. I'll dabble in some baseball, but basketball is elite, man. I feel like basketball has the potential to be my favorite sport in the near future. And I feel like basketball is the only sport that could be as global as soccer. I don't think it'll ever get as global as soccer is, but it is the only one that could kind of approach that type of global like audience. Football's too American. Football's dope. I love the NFL, but it's too American. Like they're trying to push it in England and stuff like that. There is a market for it, but I would never feel like there'll never be like a Euro League for NFL, like where Luka Doncic came from, where he was playing in the second best league in the world, in Spain. That I don't think that will ever happen with the NFL. There's just not like there's just not people like in other parts of the world that really want to play football. Ooh. Yeah, I'm very excited for this year's playoffs. This is the first year since like 2015 where we don't know who's going to make it out of the West. The Warriors had a stranglehold on the West for so long that, you know, it kind of demoralized a lot of NBA fans from watching. Like, the Warriors were so good. Shout out to the Warriors, man. I kind of hated on them during their run just because, I mean, it's a thing to do when teams get really good. But man, I didn't like the KD move. That didn't help either. But their dominance was elite. Like, I mean, you could be hopeful that maybe the Rockets would knock them out, and you could be hopeful that, you know, the Thunder were gonna take them out and stuff like that. But deep down, you kind of always knew that the Warriors were just gonna make it all the way back to the finals. And although it was fun to see them, they're a good team to watch. They're good for the NBA. I kind of like it when there's parity in the NBA, when there other teams, anybody can make the finals. When a 4 seed has a chance or a 3rd seed, I don't like it being so like automatic. Where, okay, this is just because we have to do it. You know, this is just because like we have to do the playoffs. Like, this is a formality almost. Like, we all know the Warriors are gonna make it. Let's just skip to the finals. Warriors versus Cavs. Let's get it over with. Now, on both sides, even though the Bucks are a great team and they were like on pace to break records and stuff before the NBA shut down, like there's no guarantee that the Bucks are gonna make it out of the East. I don't even think they are, just because Giannis has no 3 and I don't trust Middleton as a number 2. They have a chance. Hopefully they do, just so they're able to keep Giannis. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Raptors made it out. They have Nick Nurse. He's such a good coach. And I wouldn't be surprised either if the Celtics find a way to get to the finals. So, you know, I love that about the East. You know, it's wide open for the most part. The top 3 teams, even the Heat. I'll be kind of surprised if they make the finals, but it wouldn't shock me. Like, they could do it. In the West, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets. Don't sleep on the Nuggets. They're the deepest team in the West. I mean, stars matter is the number one thing that matter in the playoffs, but depth, can't forget about depth. I think depth does matter more in the regular season just because it's 82 games. So it's a long season, injuries and stuff like that. In the playoffs, when you know who you're playing on, you know, for 4 games straight, you know the matchups, stars win games. But I mean, depth still matters in the playoffs. So the Nuggets are the deepest team in the West. They have a chance to maybe make the finals. Can't forget about the Rockets. The Rockets are legit. Don't sleep on the Rockets. They could push any team to 7 games. They might just make the finals this year. Don't count out Russell Westbrook and James Harden. They could definitely make the finals. So I hope the Lakers make it. I hope we have a Lakers Clippers Western Conference final. That would be amazing. That's what I've been waiting for since the beginning of the season. Since Kawhi and Paul George signed with the Clippers, I've been waiting for this matchup. I feel like a lot of people have been waiting for this matchup, so I'll be very upset if we don't get to see it. I feel like we should. When it comes down to it, I think both teams are gonna make it, and it's gonna be a great playoff series. And then in the Eastern Conference, it should be fun too. I'm just very excited. I'm so excited. Don't let coronavirus distract you from the fact that this is the first playoffs in a long time that it's gonna be wide open, and you don't know who's gonna make the finals. There's plenty. If you were a betting man, it would be hard to get the finals correct. I mean, probably the safe bet would be Lakers Bucks or Clippers Bucks, but any other matchup for the most part wouldn't be so surprising. Like if you see Clippers Bucks, I mean Rockets Bucks, when you get there to the finals, you won't be like, man, no one saw this coming. No one saw the Rockets making it. No one saw Bucks Raptors. I mean, not Bucks Raptors Rockets. Like, oh, what? How did that happen? No, you'll be like, okay, the Rockets have two elite players, and the West is wide open, and the Raptors are defending champions, and they have Nick Nurse, and they have Van Vliet and Lowry and Siakam. Like, this year is gonna be great for playoffs. If you don't like the NBA or if you have not been keeping up, tune in for this year's playoffs. It's gonna be one of the best playoffs ever. I wanted to give my predictions on the NBA awards. Giannis should win back-to-back MVP. He should run away with it. There's a lot of people that say LeBron should win it, but he has AD. AD's a monster. AD, for the most part, has better numbers than LeBron. I'm a diehard Lakers fan. It'd be great for LeBron to win an MVP with the Lakers, but I just don't see it. I don't understand that narrative that people are trying to give him more votes because the late Kobe Bryant died and it was hard on him, and he had to go through a lot to carry the Lakers to the first seed. But I don't think that adds weight to his MVP case. Giannis has better numbers. He has a better record. He doesn't have the co-star that LeBron does. So for myself, I would pick Giannis as the MVP, and I feel like he should run away with it. I don't think it should be close, as people are saying. MVP is clearly Giannis. Defensive Player of the Year, I think Giannis is gonna, become one of only like 3 players to win MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same year, and I do have him winning it. So congratulations. I mean, if I was giving the award, congratulations, but I'm not. But I do have him winning it. Rookie of the Year, Ja Morant. If it was up to me, it would be unanimous. Zion has been, he's been good, but he's been like kind of lackluster. He's not that good on defense. He gets his points, but he didn't even play that many games, and the award is based on games before the bubble, and he barely played any. So I think Ja Morant should win it almost unanimously. It's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy award to hand out. It's Ja Morant all the way. Sixth Man of the Year, that one's kind of a little harder. It's going to come down between Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, and Dennis Schroeder. And I have Dennis Schroeder winning it. He had a great season for OKC. That whole OKC team just surprised a lot of teams. Surprised everybody basically. Once Chris Paul got traded to that team for Westbrook, people thought that was it. They were gonna blow it up again. That team was gonna, fall off a cliff, and they weren't gonna make the playoffs. And Chris Paul, he's the most responsible for them being in the playoffs. But Dennis Schroeder had a great year. Dennis Schroeder has always had that potential to be a good point guard. When the Hawks were good and they had him as his backup, I kind of felt that they should give him the reins and make him the starting point guard instead of Jeff Teague. Jeff Teague is a pretty mediocre point guard, in my opinion. Dennis Schroeder definitely is quicker and he has more potential. So I think the Hawks messed up back then, but this year Dennis Schroeder played really good. I think he should win Sixth Man of the Year. Most Improved Player, Bam Adebayo. He's been killing it the whole season. He's one of those bigs that will make it like in the NBA. The NBA is evolving. Like the big man position is kind of dying. But if you're like Bam Adebayo or you're quick on your feet, you could guard a guard. You could guard a guard. You could guard the guard position, the one or the two. You could switch onto anybody, and you won't be that bad of a defender on them. Like for most people, if you get a big to switch on your point guard or your shooting guard, you're in a bad position. They're gonna get blown by. But Bam Adebayo has quick feet. He's laterally quick too. He'll be able to keep up with a lot of the point guards and shooting guards. He's one of those big men that they fit today's NBA. He has a high motor. He's just a good all around player, and the player that he is right now is a way better player than last year. I know Luka won't win it, but he definitely deserves some votes. Luka last year was, rookie of the year. He was a great player. You could tell he was gonna have a bright future. But Luka this year, that's an MVP candidate. I do have him winning MVP next year, but I know the award is kind of like a storyline too. They give it to like players that no one really saw coming. So excuse me, Bam Adebayo, no one really saw Bam Adebayo coming out of nowhere and being this good. So he definitely deserves it. But Luka definitely deserves some consideration. He's been amazing. Coach of the year, Nick Nurse. I think that one's pretty easy too. Once Kawhi left the Raptors, everybody thought they were gonna fall off a cliff. They were gonna go back to being the same old Raptors, the Raptors that people don't really care about. But with Nick Nurse there, he steadied the ship. They have a better win percentage this year than last year. They look like a scary team. Van Vliet and Kyle Lowry, Siakam, Ibaka. Like that team is nice, and I give Nick Nurse all the credit for being a great coach. So those are my awards. One more time: Giannis MVP, Giannis Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, John Morant, Most Improved, Bam Adebayo, Coach of the Year, Nick Nurse. And they also announced that they were gonna give some Bubble awards. Real quick, my Bubble MVP would be Devin Booker. The Suns are 7-0. No one saw that coming. DeAndre Ayton is a pretty good player. He's his second star or second up and coming player, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there's other decent players, but for the most part, it's been just Devin Booker. So my Bubble MVP would be him. My All-Bubble team, they're also gonna name a first team All-Bubble or something like that. I would have Lillard, Booker, Luka, TJ Warren, and Embiid as my All-Bubble team. I think they've all played at elite levels and have gotten their team some wins. So yeah, man, the NBA is so dope. I'm so glad the NBA is back. The bubble has been great. All these players have been showing out in the bubble. The playoffs is almost here. We're like a week away from the playoffs. The battle for the 8th seed has been amazing. This is the first playoffs that we don't know who's gonna make it out from each conference. So man, I'm excited. The NBA is the shit, man. I love the NBA. All right, let's talk about Europa League and Champions League. Europa League, all the quarterfinals are done. We have United, Sevilla, Shakhtar, and Inter that are through to the semifinals. Champions League, only one game has finished. PSG was able to come back and beat Atalanta 2-1. Let's talk about the Wolves game. I was very disappointed with the Wolves. That is my favorite Premier League team, and they look so bad. I cannot emphasize how bad they looked. The team is a team that throughout the season they're like mostly a counter-attacking team. They could be decent with the ball on their foot, but for the most part they're a counter-attacking team, and they have players that could offer a lot up top. Raul Jimenez, Adama Traoré, Jota, Neto. They're all quality players. They're players that you look at and you don't think you have a bad attacking tandem with any of them up top. Raul Jimenez partnered with any of those players is a good solid front two. And yesterday they just looked like they were scared to go up to propose a game to make Sevilla uncomfortable. I don't know why Nuno planted the team like that. A lot of people are saying that the team is just tired. It's been a long season. It's been the longest season ever, over a year. The Wolves were one of the first teams to get started this season just because they had to enter in Europa League qualification. So they started before everybody. And now a year later, more than a calendar year has gone, and they're still in the same season. So I understand that the squad is not that deep. It's almost the same 14, 15 players that play all the time. But that was so uninspiring. Like the game against Sevilla, we had like no chances. We had just the penalty, and Raul unfortunately missed that. Uncanny of him, but it kind of, it set the tone, and you were like, okay, this is bad. If Raul Jimenez is missing penalties, it might be a long day, and it was. It looked like we couldn't play from the back. Our center backs kind of struggle to do that. I don't think they're good. They're that good with their ball on the feet. Cody is amazing at finding those long balls in the corners, but playing from the back looks like it's very difficult for our center backs to do. That might be one of the positions that we might have to upgrade in. Midfield looked tired. Midfield looked slow. It didn't look creative at all. Moutinho, he's getting up there in age, so we might have to get somebody to take his spot. Neves underperformed. You expect more from Neves, the quality player that he is. Den Docker looked pretty slow, looked sluggish in the midfield. It was just a bad performance from the whole team. Sevilla had possession almost the whole game. They looked like the most dangerous team. You saw the game and you were like, damn, it's just a matter of time till they score. And sure enough, at the end of the game, they get a header off a quick corner kick. Wolves were slow to pressure that cross too. And, it is what it is. Sevilla was the better team. Sevilla does deserve to go through. Sevilla was the favorite going into the game. I kind of saw it coming. I saw the Wolves were struggling in the last few games. As a Wolves fans, I hope for the best, but expected the worst, and the worst is what happened. And, now we're left with no European soccer next year, which could be a good thing. It's going to be a short turnaround for the start of next season. Wolves don't have a very deep squad, so it might be good to just concentrate on the EPL for next season, concentrate on those domestic cups. The one concern I do have is we have a lot of quality players in our roster, and with no European soccer, no Europa, no champions, it might be hard to keep them. This is the same path that a lot of other smaller teams go on when they have a good 2 years, good little run, 2-3 years. Is if you don't offer a quality player European soccer, that quality player might not stick around to, for you to obtain European soccer again. I think Leicester has had decent success in keeping their players. Obviously, they lost Conte, but they're one of those teams that even Leicester, and they won the EPL, had a hard time keeping all their players. And you've seen it happen to all the teams that do good. Everton, Sunderland, like most teams in England are just a farm. Like their main purpose, as sad as it is just to provide the top six their quality players, and it's really hard for those other teams to keep their really good players. And my worry is that now with no European soccer for next season, we'll see a mass exodus out of the Wolves. Players I could see leaving for better teams or teams with European soccer could be Raul Jimenez. He's linked to Manchester. He's linked to Juventus. He's a quality player. I could see him leaving. Jota has been struggling, but he's a quality player. I could see him wanting to go to at least a Europa League team. Neves is an elite player. He could go to a big club too. And then Traoré, just because he has so much pace, he's had big showings against like Manchester City. I could see a big team coming to scoop him up. It's daunting. I'm hoping we're able to keep all of our players. Like I said, hope for the best, expect the worst. The worst would be everybody leaves. I expect maybe 1 or 2 players leave. Mostly Raul Jimenez, even though he's probably the most important player in the Wolves, I feel like he's the one that's going to leave. He's getting up there in age. He's 29, about almost nearing 30. This is the best soccer he's ever played. He's probably not going to have another chance to go to a bigger team and play European soccer. And every player's dream is to play Champions League and Europa League consistently in the top team and lift some type of European silverware. So if a team comes calling, I don't blame him for wanting to leave. But hopefully, we're able to keep everybody and we get to run it back next year. I do expect maybe 1 or 2 players to leave. And I hope we reinvest that money into some other quality players, maybe get more squad depth. If Jimenez leaves, we definitely need to invest in a good striker to take his spot. Like, And even then, we might need to get 2 strikers because after Jimenez this season, there was like no one. Like they could never really give Raul Jimenez some quality rest. So it'll be good to get some strikers, maybe get some center backs that are better on their feet. Go young on the midfield. I mean, Wolves got some. Wolves they have a short break, but they got a lot of work to do. Hopefully, they're able to get some good players and they're able to keep this momentum going. And next season we could aim for like a seventh or higher finish again. Hopefully 6th, 5th, maybe a Champions League spot. That'd be great. But overall, Wolves had a good season. Nothing to hang your head about. Could have done better in Europa. Could have finished out EPL better. But overall, it's a really good season for the Wolves. I'm glad they're doing good in the EPL. I'm glad they're not one of those teams that just get moved up to the EPL to get relegated right back down. Good job for the Wolves. I'm excited for the future. Hopefully they're able to keep most of their players. Unfortunate end of the season, but overall good quality season in the second season on top flight. Other games in Europa, United, my favorites to win. My pick to win Europa looked very lackluster against Copenhagen. The Copenhagen keeper looked great. He kept them in the game. But United just looked very weak. I might have to repick my pick, but I still got United coming out and winning Europa League. Just because the squad. They have the best squad. And I feel like they'll find a way to win. And that's what big teams do. When you're not playing good, big teams find a way to win. And that's what they did. They got the 1-0 win, even though it was a penalty, but they figured it out. And that's the difference between like United and Wolves. Wolves had a rough game. And if they were a big team, they would have figured out a way to sneak out a win against Sevilla. But they couldn't. So it is what it is. United go through. Inter Milan look pretty good. They'll definitely give United a run for their money. Shakhtar look good too. There won't be no pushovers, but I do expect to see a United Inter final. But Sevilla might give United some trouble, man. These La Liga teams, I don't know, but they always match up good against EPL teams. They always give EPL teams a run for their money. And I would not be surprised if Sevilla goes through, but I do predict the Inter versus United final 2-0 United. As far as Champions League resumed today. We had PSG against Atalanta. I had Atalanta winning 2-1 just because, Atalanta came out of nowhere. I like the Cinderella story. They're a solid team. But PSG was able to come back in the last few minutes and get the 2-1 win. PSG, I did say in my last podcast that this is PSG's best chance of getting any type of Champions League glory, because these games they're not two-legged, they're one-legged. There's no second leg to choke away like PSG have done in the past, like they did against Barca. Like PSG, they have talent. They have a nice squad. They have the easier bracket and to make it to the final. Now, hopefully they're able to, for PSG fans, hopefully they're able to, go far into the season. One thing I like to say is I'm kind of disappointed that today's game kind of brought disappointment to me, just because I saw Neymar playing and I hadn't really seen him play that much in the last few seasons, just because he went to PSG. League One is harder to catch on TV right here in the States. No one really watches, even if it was readily available. League One is not a league that you want to invest time in, or that you go out of your way to watch games. PSG kind of runs that league, and all the other teams are mediocre or half decent. But yeah, watching Neymar play again is kind of refreshing. Like, he showed his talent. I saw him do some dribbles that I was like, damn, all right. I remember this Neymar when he was in Barca, and I was able to see him more often, or when he's with Brazil and he's always on TV. It was nice to see, but then it was also disappointing because I was like, damn, we've kind of missed some of Neymar's prime just because he went to France. Like, he should have gone to the EPL. He should have started in Barcelona. He should have always been, on TV and available to most of the people that watch soccer. But I know a lot of people have not seen Neymar play just for the simple fact that he's in France, he's in PSG. No one really cares about that league, we only see him play in Champions League, and Champions League have their games stacked where they usually play it. There's multiple games going on at the same time. So if PSG is playing when your team's playing, you're not really watching PSG. I don't know. That's what happened with me. That's the reason I haven't really been seeing him that much in the last few years. He's also injured pretty often, but it was nice to see him play. He's a quality player. He still has all those dribbles. He still flops. He still flops like nobody's business. He be throwing himself around. And he still has that problem where he doesn't know when to pass the ball, or he doesn't know when enough is enough. He likes to be flair, and he likes to showboat, and he likes to make the defenders look bad. But sometimes he overdoes it where you already juked out a defender, you already made your move, you already passed him. Like the smart thing to do would be to like maybe do a give and go with somebody or open it up wide and get in the box. And instead of doing that, Neymar just holds on to the ball and keeps on trying to humiliate his defender, which is fun. It's cool. It's entertaining. Or he holds on to the ball and they foul him, or they eventually take the ball away from him. Not every time it works out, but it's just frustrating because if Neymar was able to get that last touch, or he was able to pass the ball out, or just be smarter with the way he finishes his plays, I feel like he would be a way better player, and he would be able to elevate PSG to new heights. But because he doesn't do that, he is kind of a ball hog, and he likes to showboat, and he likes to make his defenders look bad as much as he can. Sometimes the end product is not there, but he's still a great player, and he's fun to watch. I can't deny that. Even with the flopping and all the whining he does, he's a fun player to watch. I would like to see him go back to Barca, maybe not Real Madrid. I wouldn't want him at Real Madrid, but I wouldn't mind him going back to Barca and reigniting that rivalry with Real Madrid, or going to the EPL. I think that would be very fun. Neymar deserves to be watched by more people. Like, he's a good player, and he needs to go to a bigger market. Even though PSG is in France, that's a big market, but soccer-wise, no one really watches them. And then the other games that we have is Bayern versus Barcelona, Atletico Madrid versus Red Bulls, Man City versus Lyon. Tomorrow is Red Bulls versus Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid should pull out like a vintage Atletico win, 1-0 or 2-0, packing the bag, getting in the counterattack, being very stout in the back, and not conceding a goal, and basically toughing out a victory. I expect that to happen tomorrow. Atletico Madrid should win. Should beat Red Bull. Barcelona versus Bayern. I would say Bayern pretty easily. They have a way better squad. They're in a way better form. It should definitely be Bayern, but you can never count out Messi. Messi is still Messi. He's still a great player. And if he's on, Barca could win. But I do have Bayern winning 3-1. Going away, kind of, but they are the better team. They're way deeper. Position for position, Bayern is just almost the way better team. So I do have Bayern winning. And then Man City versus Lyon. Man City should win it. And same thing that I've said about PSG. If Man City ever hopes to get some Champions League silverware, this would be the season. There's no two-legged playoffs. There's less pressure. They're 3 games away from being champions. They got to win 3 games, and they're champions. This would be the year to do it. Man City, for all the money you've invested, for all the good players that you have, for all the money you're paying Guardiola, for all the money he's spent since he's gotten there, this has to be the year. 3 more wins and you're champion. Doesn't get. You can't put it simpler than that. You gotta win 3 games and you're champions. There's no 2 legs. This is it. Man City has to show up. Lyon has a pretty alright squad, but I don't think they'll be able to keep up with Man City. And yeah. Oh, one more thing I wanted to talk about was the conclusion of the MLS is Back tournament. Portland was able to win and beat champions. But man, that game was so hard to watch. There's so many mistakes. I just don't want to keep talking down on the MLS, talking shit to the MLS, but man, the MLS is struggling right now. Their defense, every defense just has elementary mistakes. You watch highlights, you watch the game, you watch a lot of things, and you're just left like, wow, how are these people even professional? Like, how are you attacking the ball like that? Like, I saw a play where the defender it would have been an easy clear if he hits it with his right foot, but he tries to clear with his left, and it's a bad angle, so he mishits it. So then the attacker is left going inside the box, and he just basically tackles him. And I'm like, man, that's just some sloppy soccer. MLS, like I said, their player pool wasn't that deep to keep adding all these teams, and they've been adding teams and teams and teams. So at some point, you gotta like relax and let the player pool catch up to the amount of teams they have. But I don't know, man. The MLS, it might be some good TV just because a lot of goals are being scored. But as a soccer aficionado, soccer being my favorite sport, sometimes I just can't watch. I got to turn off the TV. It's just like, why am I watching this? This is so sloppy. It's not that entertaining. And I don't have the attachment with any of the teams. I don't feel anything for most of these teams. LAFC a little bit, but like all these other teams, like Timbers, watching the Timbers doesn't do anything for me, really. Like they don't have history, or they're not a world-renowned team where I'm like, you know what? It's sloppy soccer, but at least I'm watching the Timbers. I don't feel that way. So MLS has to pick it up, man. It's just there's a lot of good sports out there on TV now. All these sports had to take a hiatus, and now most of these sports are back all at the same time. So if the MLS wants to compete, wants to get some ratings, wants to catch people's attention, these players got to pick it up, or else everyone's going to forget about the MLS and they're going to be watching something else. But that's pretty much it for episode 2 of the podcast. Thank you so much for sticking around this long and hearing me out. NBA is beautiful. I'm so glad we're going to have some exciting playoffs. Europa League and Champions League are winding down. Unfortunate for all of us Wolves fans. All of us that are Wolves fans and saw the Wolves lose. But it is what it is. Thank you so much for listening to me. This is Ish signing out. Have a great day.